Could somebody please make it make sense?
Hey everybody, welcome to A Pop of Culture. I'm your host, Esoteric and Facetious, and this is A Pop of Culture, which is my video essay podcast where I speak on pop culture, social justice, and human experience from a Black, bisexual, and male perspective. Everything, and I mean everything I say, should be taken with a grain of salt, as I am simply a recent college grad with access to a recording device and the internet. With that being said, maybe it shouldn't be your sole reason to critique my views unless it's truly relevant. If you disagree with anything I say, let's have a civil conversation in the comment section below. Before we get into the topic of this video, which is 702, BET Presents The Encore and how past trauma can impact you in the present, I want to shout out my cover channel. I have a cover channel, Pop of Culture Sings, where I sing throwback R&B, contemporary R&B, pop music. I do parodies as well, so if you want to be down like Brandy, if you're down with the click, and if you're not down with my RP Aaliyah, then definitely feel free to check that channel out. Now let's get into the topic of this video. I have my notes down here if I look down. 702 was the girl group that was founded in the 90s. However, they were initially known as 𝘎𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙀, which was a quartet which featured LeMisha, Irish, and Irish Grinstead, who were sisters, and Amelia Cruz. The sisters and Amelia were a quartet who actually released a song, This Little Game We Play, with a boy band, Subway. In this song, LeMisha was the lead and she was front and center. However, once Mike Bivins got control of the group, he decided that he didn't necessarily care for Irish or Amelia's vocals, and they were cut from the group. They were replaced by Tiffany Villarreal, sorry if I mispronounced that, and Camila Williams. Ultimately, Tiffany left for a solo career, but Mila became the lead vocalist of the group, and the group went on to release 3 studio albums, which were very successful. They had top 10 singles, they had a gold album, they had a platinum album, and they are still very well known within the R&B community. They are respected for the work that they did. However, within the group, once the lineup changes occurred, LeMisha and Irish, who were there since 𝘎𝙬𝙗𝙧𝙀, LeMisha and Irish, whose sister and brother-in-law did a lot of work to even get them the record deal, they felt a type of way because they felt like we've been putting so much work in, and then now that we are actually getting our chance, now that we're actually getting our recording contract, now that we're actually being offered the career that we want, our sister's been kicked from the group, our other bandmate has been kicked from the group. This girl that we don't even know has popped in here and she's singing all the leads, and she's not even trying to respect the work that we did to get this group off the ground. She's not speaking up for us. LeMisha and Irish talked a lot about how throughout their career in 702, how they felt like Mila was never going to speak up for them. She never spoke up for them. Mila stated that she was new to the group. It was a new environment for her, so she didn't feel comfortable speaking up. She didn't feel like it was her place, which caused conflict in the group because Mila was dominating the group. She was the face of the group. When you heard 702, you immediately thought of Mila's voice, whereas LeMisha and Irish were more so background singers who didn't really get much time to shine, which hurt Misha a lot because she was the lead vocalist and she felt like her talents were not being appreciated. And things seemed to just get worse and worse as the group progressed. When Misha got pregnant, when they were going to promote the second album, they stated that they were trying to find somebody to replace her. They were considering replacing her, even though she had put so much work into the group. Not only that, but with the second album and beyond, they were saying how there were times when LeMisha and Irish were literally locked out of the studio. They were not allowed to record. And they just felt like they were not being valued in the group that they put so much hard work in. They felt they were being underutilized, and they felt no matter what they did, it was always going to be Mila's show. And they felt like Mila was essentially using them in their group as a way to become solo. They had wanted to be a singing group. That's what they wanted to do. That was their aspiration. They felt like Mila didn't necessarily want to be in a group, and she was just using the group to propel her solo career. Now, to be fair, I've listened to a lot of 702 music, and I do think that Irish and LeMisha have beautiful voices, but I do think Mila's voice is the standout, and I think that her voice is instrumental to their sound. When you think of 702, you think about Mila's ad-libs, you think about her tone, which is a very unique tone. And her ad-libs, like, she just has this very rubbery tone where she's just very interesting to listen to. And without her voice, the song doesn't have that flavor, doesn't have that spice. I feel like because Mila had the most marketable upfront voice, it was easy for them to put her to the front. LeMisha, she has a higher voice. When you hear her in her element, she sounds wonderful. But I do feel Mila's voice was the easiest to put on a record and not have to do all this work, not to have to figure out how to work around it. I feel like Irish and LeMisha's voices worked well, but I don't necessarily think that they were voices where you could just put them on any track. I feel like Mila's voice worked with a lot of different tracks, was very versatile. But I do think with Irish and LeMisha, their voices are great, but I feel like they would have had to find the track that would work with them rather. Since LeMisha's voice is so high and Irish's voice is lower, it appeared to me that they were more willing to go with Mila's voice because it was great off the hook and it wasn't something that they had to do a lot of work to make it work. Because of the uneven sharing of leads within the group, the mistreatment of LeMisha and Irish, where they felt they were not being included, where they felt like they weren't even allowed to sing a lot of the time, there was high tension within the group, and there were times when the group broke apart. They have since come back together, but they had fights, they said things about each other, and things got ugly. And in my opinion, this was a traumatic situation for LeMisha and Irish because they were young girls who wanted to sing. They talk about how they were not in the best environment, so they would stay inside and sing. That was their escape. That was something that they did to feel happy, to escape their circumstances, and it was their dream to sing for a living. And it appeared like, due to their work that they put in and the work that their sister and brother-in-law put in, they were actually going to be successful. They were actually going to have a chance. But once they got that chance, they realized that things don't always go the way that you would like for them to go. It was traumatic for them because they had this dream for themselves, but the second that it started to become true, some not so good things happened. Their sister and their group member were dropped. And Irish herself was almost dropped. So it's like you do all this work, you think you're gonna make it, you think you're finally there, and then once you get there, you start losing things, you start losing opportunities, you start feeling like you're not being valued. And what does this have to do with the topic of this video? The topic of this video is the trauma of your past can impact your present. So as I said, it appears that LeMisha and Irish were traumatized by the fact that they did all this work to become famous, to become musicians, become singers, and once they got there, it wasn't what they envisioned, and they felt throughout their time within 702 that they were not necessarily being valued. So what does this have to do with BET Presents The Encore? BET Presents The Encore was a show where 9 women were invited to participate in a reality TV show where they would spend a month within a house and form an album. They would form a girl group and release an album within 30 days. And within BET Presents The Encore, LeMisha and I started off to a very rough start. On the first episode, all of the women gather in the room with Cinnamon. She is the vocal coach, and they all sing short excerpts of songs. LeMisha and Irish are immediately shown to be some of the weakest vocalists within the show. And not only with their vocals are they not necessarily the strongest, but with their dancing, they're not the strongest. When all of them do a dance routine, both of them struggle to keep up. And immediately, they are devalued once again. People begin talking about them having a separate group where the women who are better at singing and dancing can be in, and there being a separate group where those who are not so good at singing and dancing can be in. This calls for a lot of comparison, and yet again, LeMisha and Irish are not being valued. To be fair, their vocals were not that strong, and I do think that they should have prepared beforehand if they knew that their vocals were not in the best shape. But it is what it is. Again, LeMisha and Irish feel they're not being valued in the group. And why is this an issue? This is an issue because, as I mentioned before, in 702, they felt like they were not being valued. They felt like their work within 𝑭𝒐𝒍𝒍𝒐𝒘 was not being valued. They felt like nobody cared that they put all this work in the group before, and all that mattered was that Mila was front and center. And they felt like no matter what they did, their talent wasn't being appreciated. So now in 2021, in this new reality show, they start singing and dancing and trying to keep up. They're doing their best, and they hear all these group members who want to separate the group so they don't have to work with LeMisha and Irish. They hear Keely and one of the twins talking about them behind their back. And it's like history is repeating itself. They are showing up to an opportunity. They're hoping that they can benefit from this opportunity. They're hoping that they can grow and they can show themselves in their best light and share their talent with the world. And yet again, they're being devalued. Nobody cares about them and their craft and what they can do. And this is trauma repeating itself. And what did I feel I learned from this show? I think I learned from this show, sometimes you have to process and work through these things that you've been through when you were younger so that you don't have to continue to go through these situations when you get older. Because within the show, you see LeMisha and Irish having this conflict. And it's funny how these situations parallel each other. You see how in 702, LeMisha and Irish were not even allowed to be in the studio at times. They were locked out. And within BT Presents The Encore, you see how LeMisha and Irish feel uncomfortable within the studio. LeMisha says that she wants to write a song, but once she's in the studio, she feels a lot of anxiety. She feels a lot of pressure. And even though there's producers there to help her, she just feels like she can't do it. And later on in the episodes, she doesn't want to show up to the studio because she feels intimidated by the twins. She feels like they're judging her. She feels like they're making out that she's not good enough. When it's time for LeMisha to write her song, she feels very anxious. She feels like she's not going to be able to perform the task the way that she needs to. And so she just ends up not even trying. She just runs off. She feels ill and she never ends up completing the song, which is sad because it was her chance. It was her chance to prove to herself and to the audience that she is capable. She can do the things that she says, because throughout the run of 702 and afterward, she always spoke about how she felt she wasn't necessarily able to have her shine within the group. But the sad thing is, within BT Presents The Encore, she was given yet another chance to show off the talents that she had. And that pressure she had not only because of the trauma of the past and not feeling like she was valued, but the trauma of the present of these twins, Fallon and Felicia, who are there, who are extremely gifted when it comes to making music, writing songs, producing, and things of that sort. Because of the trauma of the past and the trauma of the present of these twins devaluing them, shading them, taking any shot they can at putting them down, they don't feel comfortable practicing. They don't feel comfortable showing up in the studio. And I think this really is a great example of how the past and the present work to limit us. Throughout this show, you see LeMisha and Irish becoming more and more angry at the twins and Keely, and it impacts their ability to see objectively. Because if you look at it objectively, them staying there for the entire season and them doing the EP, not only are they getting a check per each episode that they're showing up in, but they're also going to get exposure. That chance that they wanted to get that recognition way back when they were in Sweet and Sugar, this is their chance. This is their chance to show who they are as vocalists. This is their chance to put themselves back out there. Even when Mila showed up to the show to watch them, she herself was overcome with tears because she was so happy that they were finally getting the chance to show all their talents to the world. And so it was their chance, and that pressure from the past of them not feeling like they were good enough, coupled with the shade that was coming from the twins, Keely, and other people, stopped them from being the best performers that they could be and rising to the occasion. Like I said earlier, I do think there were times when LeMisha and Irish could have worked to be more prepared, and I also think there were times when they were in the house where they could have done more when it comes to showing up to record, showing up to practice dancing, and things of that sort. But at the same time, I do have to keep it real. The twins and Keely did say some things that would have caused for them to feel not so good about themselves. And all of that impacts your ability to perform, that impacts your ability to show up. And if you're somebody who already isn't the best singer, and you're hearing time and time again how you're the weakest link, how you're not showing up and doing what you need to do, and how you're not good enough, how are you supposed to pull out the courage to keep trying when you're already feeling like you're not good enough, when you have these years and years of trauma that you're handling, that you're still processing? I think LeMisha and Irish in this show us that we have to make peace with our past trauma, or otherwise it's going to impact our present. And I think sometimes it's so easy for us to have went through something years and years ago and say, oh, well, that was years ago, like, I'm past that. But I think it's very apparent to those around us, sometimes even more than to ourselves, that we're not really over that trauma, that those experiences we had when we were younger are still very much impacting how we are doing in the present. I think that if LeMisha and Irish had made peace with the fact that they were not necessarily favored in the group, but that they still are talented and that the group did benefit them in some way, and that they still could pursue music even though it wasn't ideal way back when, I think that they could have entered BET Presents The Encore with a different perspective, because they wouldn't just be thinking, oh, F the twins, how dare the twins speak to us like that. They would have had that self-assuredness, because it appears throughout the show they slowly but surely give up. They slowly but surely give in and say, well, if the twins are going to be so toxic, if Keely's going to be so toxic, then F it, I don't even want to be here anymore. They even get to the point where Misha ends up threatening to fight them because she's just so angry at them, and she's so angry at how they've treated her. And she misses the fact that this is a great opportunity for her. She lets the twins and Keely essentially run her out of the house. And I don't think that everything that the twins and Keely did was hate, but I do think in the context of the trauma that they've been through, them being devalued was not good. And I think that the twins on some level were trying to be honest and help them, but I think there's a delivery issue that came. I think LeMisha and Irish show us that if you do not process what you've been through, you can keep in this cycle where anytime you get an opportunity, you're going to be right back there in the 90s mentally, where you're going to be like, why don't they think I'm good enough? Why can't things be different? All these other things. And you're not going to be able to be present in the moment and rise to the occasion because you're stuck in the 90s. You're stuck in being that young girl who had all these dreams that didn't work out. Whereas LeMisha and Irish in their 40s now could say, the past is in the past. I am talented. I've worked on my craft and I'm ready to show up. And no matter what you say, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be on that record. I think it was smart of them to leave when they did, because it wasn't getting any better. Things were getting worse. As that meme says, they were going from worse to worser. But I still feel like it was an opportunity. And while I do get their decision to leave because it was so toxic and the twins and Keely were being kind of hateful towards them, I still feel like if they were able to rise to the occasion, I think they wouldn't have regretted it. I think they would have been so proud of themselves. And I feel like there was a lost opportunity when they left, because they kind of allowed their own self-doubt and trauma plus the twins and Keely to take away the opportunity that they had, because Keely and the twins didn't call them to show up for the show. Carlos King called them. He was the one who wanted them on the show, and there were so many 702 fans who wanted to see them in their element. They wanted to see them performing. They wanted to see what LeMisha and Irish had to offer. Even with the advertisements for the show, it wasn't just Cherish Twins and Keely Williams on the show. It was 702, Total, Cheetah Girls, 3OW, Danity Kane, Nivea. And I feel like they lost sight of the blessing that the show could have been to them because of how the twins made them feel and because of their past experiences. And I think that's the sad part. Sometimes we get so trapped in our past experiences that we don't realize the good that new opportunities could bring to us. And I feel like with them, it almost seemed like the way that they had been made to feel in the past and the way they were made to feel in the present kind of came together in this weird way, where I feel like the emotions that they were feeling in 2021 were also the emotions they felt in the 90s, where it was this weird, because it was the same trauma, it was similar things happening to them, where I feel like the anger that they had wasn't just at the twins, but it was also probably at those record executives who disregarded their sister's talent and Amelia's talent, and they disregarded Mila and Irish's talent when they were making new music and they were deciding how they were going to divvy up the records. The takeaway from this video is your past impacts your present. And just because something happened years ago doesn't mean that it's no longer impacting you. And sometimes you may feel like you're over something. You may feel like you're past something, but deep inside you're still hurting, and it's okay. But if you want to progress, if you want to move on to the next level, sometimes you have to call that out and you have to work it out within yourself. So that's all I have to say. What do y'all think? Do y'all agree? Do y'all disagree? Let me know your thoughts below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Like, comment, subscribe.
This video, if you like this video, if you made it to this point in the video, comment a thumbs up emoji below, or still here if you are still here. Subscribe if you want to see more, and make sure to hit that bell so you're the first to know when I upload new content. I upload new content every week. And if you're enjoying yourself, and why wouldn't you be enjoying yourself? To the left, there's a playlist of all my video essay podcasts. I have 24 and counting. In the center is a button to subscribe if you just haven't had a chance to subscribe and you would like to. And to the right is a playlist of all of my covers and parodies. So if you are wanting to check those out, feel free to do so. And if you want to support me, if you want to support the show, first and foremost, a non-financial way you can support is just through sharing this video. I can make the thumbnails, I can, make the titles, I can do the tags and do keyword research. One of the best ways that I can grow my brand is through y'all sharing this content with other people who like this type of content, because I nor you can control the algorithm, but I can control the quality of the content I make, and y'all can, if you enjoy the content, share with people who can like it, so that way, if y'all are feeling it, it's getting put out there, whether, the algorithm favors it or not. Somebody's gonna see it because you resonated with it and you resonated with me, and now you're sharing it with other people. So if that's a non-financial way you can support the channel, and if you do want to support the channel financially, my Cash App is linked in the description of this video. I'm trying to, upgrade my production quality and just, keep growing and expanding and, doing bigger and better. So if you want to help and support that vision, feel free to do so. All those who donate to the channel will be featured in the credits of all of my videos on both of my channels. Thanks so much for watching. Love you all. Bye-bye. See you next time.